plan. I just didn't think we would be so blessed as to end up with two different schools. So everyone listening, make sure you donate. Go to my website, drumarjohnson.com. Go to your Cash App and donate $FDMG School. I repeat, $FDMG School on the Cash App. We need $1 million to restore the whole campus.
Wait a minute. I thought we were not supposed to donate blindly as Black people, without having something tangible or substantive proof or existence of product, goods, or services that are able to benefit the lives of the future generation of Black children growing up in America. Weren't you the one that were accusing Black folks of giving our money blindly and supporting other industries? I know for a lot of you this is the same story with this gentleman here, but for those that may not be aware, let me give you a quick summary before we get into the meat of the matter. Let me introduce you to Dr. Umar Johnson, an intellectual street fighter with no special abilities or power-ups. This heavyweight fighter hails from Philadelphia, BTW. Here we go again. The red, black, and green Power Ranger wannabe is trying to engage in another intellectual fistfight. This time, he wants to have a vocal battle of wits with one of the original kings of comedy, D.L. Hewley. This man has been the talk of the Black community since he started receiving notoriety for his thoughts and views on the Black community and the actions of its inhabitants. Now you have to admit that he does have some good qualities about him. Some interesting thoughts and opinions will have you thinking about the real problems in the Black community. His main platforms are the advocacy of Black children, the Black women folk, and the miseducation of our Black children. All great topics which present an interesting problem in the intercities of America that are often overlooked by people in a higher tax bracket or class of society. Now you would think that Dr. Umar would have Black people marching through the streets for him, kinda like they did for the Honorable Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., right? I don't mind our Black leaders having swagger or a boisterous demeanor if it produces results that gets the attention of the mainstream media for positive change within our community. Jesse Jackson and Reverend Al Sharpton are those who come to mind when speaking about the Black community leaders who have posters on the walls of our schools and hallways of various institutions, giving honor to their decades of their advocacy for African Americans. As far as Dr. Umar goes, well, that may be difficult when you become known for other actions within the realm of the Black community for things other than leadership, prayer, humbleness, humility, patience, understanding, and most importantly, unity among the Black folks that you claim to represent. I mean, just look at what he calls himself, King Kong consciousness. No, that's not. Some name I just made up for amusement or as an insult to this doctor of clinical psychology. He's referred to himself as this because, in my opinion, he wants to use the Philly mentality to attempt to become a role model for the young people within the city to become an influence. Just like the previously mentioned juggernauts, Jackson and Sharpton, I understand that things are not perfect. I understand that perfection is impossible, depending on your religious preference. But in his position, as one of the spokespersons, for the Black community as a whole, you have to develop a mindset that at any given time you can be taken away from your platform and that you can be stripped of the gift and position and station in life that God has placed you in if you don't act responsibly with the power to actually represent an entire race of people that have had to scratch and claw and fight their way into the various points of society. Politics, business, finance, education, and overall stations in life that we now find ourselves, places that were not possible just 50 years ago. The reason that I'm bringing this up today is because I feel as though the ghetto version of Dr. Huxtable has run afoul of me and several 100,000 people who subscribe to his ideology. I also feel that he has become someone who has lost the overall vision of what we have been striving for as a people for decades and decades, leadership within this country. What has drawn my ire of this man are some of his recent comments regarding this upcoming election, which is by far the most important in modern history, based on everything that has occurred within the last year or so regarding both candidates. But let's take a look back at some of the things that the good doctor has done.
Dr. Umar Johnson.
Dr. Umar Johnson. What's
Thanks
up, my
for
brother?
having me.
Good morning,
Thanks
sir.
for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Now, you are a clinical certified psychologist, right?
Right. School psychologist,
School psychologist.
and doctor of clinical psychology.
A doctor of clinical psychology. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now, what exactly is Dr. Umar Johnson's agenda? Because you hear so many different things. I mean,
Right.
as far as I see, you try to uplift young black men,
Yes, sir.
you know?
Yes, sir. Well, my work as a school psychologist is to be the gatekeeper for special education. Any child in special ed in America was evaluated by a school psychologist. If you don't come through us, you don't go to special ed, which is why most people never heard of the school psychologist.
Now explain what special ed is to people that don't
Special
know.
education is a federal law. It is a program that was created in 1975 to give children with disabilities a right to learn in public school. Before 75, if you were blind, deaf, autistic, mentally retarded, they would simply tell your parents, we have no program for you, keep them home, or find a private school.
Gotcha.
The federal government said, well, that's a violation of constitutional right, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. These children have disabilities. We cannot discriminate against them because they have disabilities, and thus special ed was created. However, it became a problem. Why? Because in predominantly African-American and Latino neighborhoods, special ed became a trash can, and is still used as a trash can, where black and Latino boys are sent that the teachers don't want to be bothered with. The two biggest labels, and everybody knows about them.
ADD.
ADHD.
And ADHD.
It was ADD in 1980. It became ADHD in 1987.
Here's another take of his when it comes to our children.
Come to school.
And a classroom assistant. They should do with the principal. Now, I'm a principal as well, okay?
Okay.
When you're given a budget, you have to decide how you're going to ration out that money. And a lot of classes that have more challenging students in them academically or behaviorally, they should have a classroom assistant. They should have an aide.
Right.
But let me tell you what a lot of principals do. Instead of giving the teachers aides to make their job easier, they take that money and they redirect it to the football team. They redirect it to the basketball team.
meant
And so
aide.
athletics are one like you'll come in as an aide to help that teacher who's struggling, keep the boys in line, that type of a thing, like an enforcer, if you would. But the principals are like, I'm not doing that because my basketball team is what's popping in this high school.
Right.
My football team is what's popping. And I'll tell you something else. A lot of principals are taking the special ed money and using it for athletics. See, special ed comes with money. And we need to be clear about this. They're not putting your kid in there because they really want to help. They put your kid in there. In New York, by the way, you guys have the highest special ed payout. I think for a special ed kid in New York, you get like $15,000 extra. So
Now, I know what you're probably thinking. You're probably wondering why I have not posted anything scandalous about the good doctor. That's because I want to give perspective and I want to give respect, because a lot of what this man says has merit, value, substance, and can be educational when used in the correct way, so that you as a person can make an informed decision as to how to treat your children. Now that we have gotten that out of the way, it's time to have a rather uncomfortable conversation with regards to the good doctor. You see, I can deal with people that have a strong connection to their history. Like Dr. Johnson, I can deal with someone that goes the extra mile to acknowledge and protect that heritage, just as Dr. Johnson. But one thing I cannot stand is someone who claims to stand on principle but has bully-like behavior, who on one hand tries to claim to be the gatekeeper. In reference to the protection of our children, I understand wanting to be the go-to for your people. I understand wanting to be the face of the struggle for black people. But you cannot pick and choose to be the hero while exhibiting villain-like behavior tendencies. Simply put, you cannot choose to be Batman when you want to be looked at as a hero, and then the next breath get online and pretend to be Harvey Dent. The difference between the two? When he plays Harvey Dent, he does it in the name of justice, but it's against his own people. Here is the other side of your night in a dashiki.
peace and love, black family. It's the Prince of Pan-Africanism, Dr. Umar Johnson. We live and direct from Jacksonville, Florida.
Before we even get started, I have a question. Why the hell are you sitting inside with an entire beanie on? It better have been snowing, and 23 outside. He hasn't even gotten 4 sentences out, and he's in violation.
It's been 5 long years since Dr. Umar Johnson has spoken here in Jacksonville, Florida. So, brothers and sisters, I want to see y'all tomorrow. Doors
He's doing
open
that
up at
thing where
4.
preachers have to repeat
Program will
every
be from
sentence
6
twice for
until 9,
emphasis.
and then we will sign books until we get up out of there, Black family. So today what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about...
That's a big-ass shirt, and he's standing like we're supposed to be able to read it. It's backwards for the camera, you dumbass.
Independent Black Parent Association Training Conference. This is very, very important. This is very, very important because we as a people have grown extremely lazy when it comes to
There is calling us
agitation
lazy again.
and organization. One of our greatest weaknesses in the post-Dr. King era, one of our greatest weaknesses since Dr. King was taken from us, murdered, assassinated on April the 4th, 1968, is that we have not had a serious, sustained, protracted, comprehensive movement for Black elevation. I repeat,
Unnecessary
since Dr. King's
repeats are about to
assassination,
start,
which will
costing
be
him
50
10 points per
years in 2
violation.
years. Almost 50 years in Black leadership has not given us a sustained, protracted, comprehensive,
OMG! Seriously!
mass directed program for Black political economic empowerment and self-determination.
So I guess
Dr.
this is
Umar
where he
Johnson in
decides
2017
he's
is
in
gonna
charge
be
now.
Intensifying the Team Pan-African program. In 2017, I'm going to be electrifying African Guards of Garvey, Team Pan-African, IMIPAP security team. We working on that.
Who are you
Our
supposed to
brothers and
be?
sisters who
The president of black
our brothers
people?
and sisters who
And
are
who
into
are
the
you
media,
supposed to be
who are
hiring?
about to straight
The Black Secret
take
Service?
over the whole conscious documentary film producing movement. We about to sack that shit. We taking that over. Nothing but positive consciousness programming in 2017. That's why you made me the Prince of Pan-Africanism. That's why I took over this conscious shit by the fucking throat. And don't worry, when I'm done talking about the Parent Association,
This is where he turns into the Black Hulk Hogan. By the way, he loves wrestling references.
Tonight, pussy. You ain't getting away with that shit. You should have never came for me, nigga. I never fuck with your little dirty broke ass anyway. Still living in your fucking mama house. What type of grown ass nigga going on 50 still living in his mama house, nigga? Look in my face when you talking to me. This
Oh,
ain't no
shit.
WWF.
He's getting
nigga.
aggressive
Who the
now.
fuck is you, the conscious Hulk Hogan? You the conscious Hulk Hogan? Papa Smurf? Motherfucker, you look like Tattoo from Fantasy Island with your stupid ass. Who the fuck is you? Randy Macho Man Seti Savage? You's a fucking nut,
See, I
nigga.
told y'all he
You's
was
a
into that
fucking
wrestling
nut.
shit.
What platform you got? What platform you got, nigga? You's a dirty nigga. Sonetta built your nut ass. Now you want it with the prince, nigga? You the general? Well, I'm the prince, nigga. The general answers to the prince. I call the fucking shots, you dirty midget. Fucking
Getting real aggressive with a dude that's supposedly the same color as him, even though Seti about 3 shades lighter.
Dr. Umar ain't the reason you look like a fucking cracker. This ain't Sonetta talking. This me, nigga. I stands my own ground. I ride alone, nigga. I don't need nobody backing me. Fuck you calling niggas on the phone for? You got something to say to me? Why you calling men up on the phone for? Speak your speech, nigga. Speak your speech, nigga. Speak your speech.
See, you could tell Umar's from Philly, because only Philly dudes act like that. Only Philly niggas act real aggressive like this when it's somebody that they outweigh, outclass, and can probably outfight. Seti was what? 120 pounds with 2 bricks in each
I
pocket?
charged Minnie Mouse to a 1-hour debate on who really runs the RBG Black Consciousness Movement, nigga. Fuck a YouTube.
Yeah,
Fuck a
somebody
Facebook.
named him
You
the
versus
Conscious
me
Hulk Hogan
in
for
your
a reason.
town, nigga.
And it shows. This is the guy that wanted to get into an intellectual fist fight with a guy 120 pounds lighter than him and probably 3 shades lighter than him. It's something about them light-skinned dudes that make dark-skinned dudes feel real insecure. But I digress. This gentleman has said a lot of very interesting things about the laziness of black folks, about how we're old and we can't really do for ourselves. He's tried to condemn us for giving to the wrong institutions. This gentleman actually had the nerve to get mad at people. We're going to get to the meat of the matter right now. So, because I don't want this video to drag out too long, Umar Johnson is well aware that as a black person, we are going to be greatly affected by the outcome of what happens on November 5th. We are going to be greatly affected by the outcome of this upcoming election, which is probably the most important in modern history. This election is going to determine our future, and we have essentially two options. You have the option of choosing a convicted felon who, and I don't want to make this about race, but just so happens to be white. And then you have the other spectrum that happens to be a black woman. Now, I'm not a vested member of the Black Caucus. I am not into the Pan-African movement. And I don't necessarily believe a lot of the things that they believe. I have not studied extensively what Dr. Umar and Sarah Sutanseti and Sa and other people who are in that community of black education as far as our history of where we come from. I'm not one of them. I'm not the brother, I can't remember his name with the lock, but I'm not one of them. So I don't claim to know all of those ideologies, but I do know this, that right now we have two choices. We can choose death or we can choose life. And right now, I think the choice has been made very, very clear if we're talking in terms of the struggle and in terms of black or white, in terms of freedom versus oppression. I think that it's safe to say that you should know who the majority would be voting for at this point. If you have learned nothing else from this election, from this discourse in our government in regards to its former leader and the person who is attempting to step up to take leadership of this country, the person who is essentially handed the keys to our government by our current president and told to go forward and carry the torch, as opposed to her opposition, who is everything against that very ideal. But what really actually sickens me about the situation is that, and I could be wrong, but I'm going to take a shot in the dark here and say that if we're going by, and I'm thinking about a few of the black orators, a few of the black scholars, a lot of them go by the ideology that the black woman is God. A lot of them go by the ideology that the black woman is to be celebrated and loved and revered and respected. But the problem becomes that if we're going by that ideology, you would think that this election would be a no-brainer. If we're going by that ideology, this election should be done already. I mean, we have essentially the tools that the federal government have given us, with him going on trial and having documents released right before the hearing and before the election, I'm sorry. And knowing all of this, now this is the time to really push the Democratic vote for the sister. Do you know how long we've been waiting? We could only have dreamed of having a black female president years ago, 20, 30 years ago. We almost had a woman. Hillary almost got in, but she missed it by the skin of her teeth. And now we have a woman who is lock, stock, and barrel, ready to go, take the White House from Donald Trump. And the one black person, the one black male who is supposed to proclaim that the black woman is the supreme queen of his universe, the one who can't stand, and I hate this term, I really do, the one that can't stand bunny hopping, the one that hates when brothers go after white women, yet we have yet to see him with a wife or girlfriend or something. But I digress. That's not my lane. I'm gonna stay out of that. But you have yet to see Dr. Umar Johnson with a sustained love interest. And by all accounts, she better be a black woman if he ever does. I'm just saying, Mr. Anti-bunny hopping, mad because a brother found him a white, little thick John, and he wants to go bunny crazy. Look, love who you love, be happy, but you know, I know women that have divested and they're happy as they can be. They are content, and that don't make them any less of a sister. So the same energy that you giving black women about white men, you better keep that same energy when it comes to black men and white women. I'm just saying. These sisters is going for these white dudes, and they are loving it and happy. So, and I don't hear people jumping out the window. I don't hear Umar and the rest of these knuckleheads jumping out the window proclaiming that they can't stand the sisters for jumping for black men. Well, when black men ain't shit or exhibit ain't shit behavior, what do you expect the sister to do? She ain't finna keep diving in the same pool of piss in the dating pool and hoping that she come out with a shiny nickel. I mean, come on now. Let's be real. Let's be real and let's be honest here. I personally don't see. I'm not gonna say I see anything wrong with bunny hopping, but I will say this: I don't give a damn if the brother is messing with a blonde-haired, blue-eyed woman. Guess what? If he loves that woman for who she is and she treats him good, who are we to say that he's not allowed to love her? Just like I said, you got sisters chasing after these white dudes, and I don't hear people complaining. I don't hear our leaders dragging our sisters down because then that makes them look hypocritical. But I digress. I guess to wrap up my little synopsis, I would have to say, just be careful of the people that you fall in love with. These black men that over-exude confidence, these black men that scream leadership, these black men that exude excellence, these black men who you want your kids to model behind, because quite frankly, as I'm starting to see with Dr. Umar, when the rubber meets the road, what are you really afraid of? Are you afraid that possibly with the impending election, which is the most important in history, as I previously stated, that there's a possibility that a black leader can overshadow you? Is that really what we're doing in 2024? Are we really starting to be afraid that the black woman that you proclaim to be the goddess and the queen and all of that might just make you look like a footnote in American history, in African American history, in Pan-African history? I'm just trying to understand why you, Dr. Heathcliff Huxtable wannabe, the black, red, and green machine Power Ranger duplicate carbon copy, would ever even fix your lips to say anything derogatory about our female knight in shining armor and high heels. What would possess you to even fix your lips to say anything negative about the sister? She's had a sketchy history with crime before. She's had some issues with incarcerating black men. But what has Donald Trump done for you, sir? I gotta start asking some really uncomfortable questions now. Oh, but this the Prince of Pan-Africanism. You already seen what he did to SETI. Y'all saw how he acted towards SETI. He was ready to beat that man up over a couple YouTube comments. You want to know what he wanted to beat up SETI for? He wanted to beat up SETI because SETI said he ain't got an answer to no MF and elders.
That was when he was having that whole issue with the elders being called together to stop some of the BS that they was dealing with in the conscious community. When they wanted to call a meeting and said, oh, you need to get the elders involved, said he told them, look, I ain't seen no elders out here. Now, I will admit he was a little disrespectful with his delivery, but I understand. We hadn't heard from elder so-and-so in I don't know how many years, and all of a sudden now people were being called to the carpet, but there were no elders to speak of to call. I'm sorry, I'll take that back. There were a few, but there were no sustained leadership within the conscious community, so therefore it was we not really feeling the whole being called to the carpet kind of thing. We're not really feeling that. So we're going to step over here and fend for ourselves and figure it out. That's what became of that. And that's what brought that on with him and SETI. But I just feel like if this is the avenue that you're going to take, you better be damn sure that there are brothers that are going to stand in the gap and say, no, you can't say this about the woman who you proclaim to be the queen. Not Kamala, not the woman, but the black woman. Not Kamala as the individual, but the black woman. You dare fix your lips to say you're not going to vote for her? Now, I'm not going to try and tell nobody who to vote for. I think it's pretty obvious what you need to do on November 5th. You need to vote. If you're not registered to vote, you need to go register to vote now. I don't want to hear nobody complain on November 6th. If Kamala doesn't get this seat, I don't want to hear nobody complaining. If you didn't vote, get out my face. I don't want to hear your mouth at this point because I just feel like I'm not going to say you're part of the problem, but you didn't help with the solution, so therefore you can't complain about the problem. If you try to vote, just don't come bitching November 6th when you see all the Trump 2020 and Project 2020 shit going on. Don't come crying and complaining because you didn't get what everybody else wanted, but you didn't lift a finger to help get it. Just saying, we got to use our brains here. And Dr. Umar just really took it to, I just feel like there were things that he could have done that, I just think there's things that he could have done that could have helped in the process of trying to unify the black community. But for some reason, he just chose to not do it. And I feel like you of all people should know, if you're supposed to be against the black people, if you're supposed to be for blacks, then you already know what you should have been doing or what you should have done. You should have known by now what was expected of you as the black leader, like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson and Ben Crump and all these civil rights attorneys. I feel like Dr. Umar Johnson could have been the next greatest thing. He could have been the sustained black leader for economic development and what's its in that. But I believe that Umar Johnson essentially sold himself for popularity and YouTube views. That's what I think. Because when he started out, he was just this nice, humble cat from Philly, rocking the Phillies hat on the Breakfast Club, doing little lectures, and then came the Breakfast Club interview that started everything going. Then he had another one. He ended up kind of being the EXO from Scream, or okay, maybe that was a bad comparison. He started kind of becoming from the Power Rangers. He was seen and they kind of held on him in every episode, but when he showed up, he was memorable. That's kind of what came. But the more times he ended up on the Breakfast Club, I felt like it started going to his head. Like, yeah, they listen to me. I'm Big Papa. He literally, called himself King Kong Consciousness, and people went with it. Like, that's big. That's big. What? Dude, seriously? What is that broad? That's that Broad Street bully shit that no one's here for. That's that Broad Street bully. I'm the only one that's going to do whatever, and I'm going to be the voice of Pan-Africanism. Cool. Who died and made you the leader? It wasn't MLK, you wasn't born then. It wasn't Malcolm, you wasn't born then. So I ask, who died and made you leader of the black community? Who passed the torch to you and said, Umar Johnson is the next great leader of the black movement in the struggle against oppression? I don't recall any of the Black Panthers giving you that title. I was around them then. You was a twinkle in your daddy's nutsack when that happened, when Black was running around. So my thing is, you can't just read a few books, throw on a dashiki, come up with a few good ideas and then proclaim yourself to be the Prince of Pan-Africanism. Well, who's the king, nigga? Who's the king? Seriously, who's the king? You told SETI well, I'm the prince and the general answers to the prince. Well, who do you answer to, sir? Who is it that Dr. Umar Johnson answers to since he's the Prince of Pan-Africanism? Who's the king, bruh? Because right now you're giving off jester vibes, Dr. Umar Johnson. They're we don't see his queen. So I just wanted to give my opinion on it. Umar, do better. Stand it, not God, not the king. Prince of Pan-Africanism and better decisions when it comes to African people. I believe you have to look at as the sum of its parts. You know, you can't tell somebody that you're not a narrative. If you will not to vote for Kamala Harris, essentially what you're doing is you're telling them to vote for Donald. And given all man has done and the things that he has not done for black people, ideology in that mindset, you're telling people to sell their soul for a few $1,000s. He was the one that was responsible for everybody's checks. And all these black people started running around screaming that Donald Trump was the greatest thing aside from Sylvester Stallone. The greatest thing since Sylvester Stallone came, and Donald Trump was a hero. Saying, let's make better decisions, people. Johnson does not necessarily people, only the sum of its parts. This is Davistar. Oh, I almost forgot to mention this school that he's building, right? This school that he is touting as the Marcus Garvey, Frederick Douglass, IMIPAP, ABC 123, FBI, ABC, BBD, whatever school. I remember a time when he started marketing the whole thing about doing this school. He told a group of people that he was supposed to put this school somewhere in Philly. And where did he decide to go? He went to Wilmington, freaking Delaware. Really? Wilmington, Delaware? You couldn't put that school in Philly? You couldn't put it in Chester? You couldn't put it in you could put this school anywhere, but you chose Wilmington, Delaware. Who from Philly is going to take their child to freaking Delaware to go to the Marcus Garvey, Frederick Douglass Academy? And some of the ideas I heard, now I will say, some of the ideas I heard that he has for this school were some things I've never heard before. He wants the kids to build gardens, and he wants them to be learn how to have sustainable land and things like that, which I gotta say, I'm actually very very happy that he would be in the mindset to teach our young people how to be self-sustainable. Because let's face it, look what they're doing with this mystery meat now. If you really want to have a sustainable life, you're going to have to grow your own stuff. You know, it is what it is. You know, if you have a garden and you can grow your own vegetables, you halfway there. You didn't unlock the code. But Umar has been touting this school since what, 2011? It's 2024, and I ain't heard well, as of recently, he has laid brick and mortar, apparently. They have a building. There's a video or a picture of him painting the walls of the building with one of his students. So I'm happy for that after the whole building fund routine. But another thing that kind of draws my ire is, have we received any type of documentation that says he's actually related to Marcus Garvey? He's been touting that for years, and I think I saw or I heard somewhere that somebody said that the family of Marcus Garvey or the family of Frederick Douglass had to come out and make a statement that said that he indeed was not related to them. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm going to definitely look into it. As of the making of this video, I haven't had the chance to really dive into the research, but I hope that somebody maybe in the comment section can clarify as to whether that happened. Because one story I heard was that he was going around saying it, and the family decided they were contemplating filing a lawsuit, or they wanted him to stop saying that he was, because he wasn't. Then I heard that there was proof that he wasn't, and that he was just going around capping, saying that he was. It was a couple of different stories. But I'm hoping that, I really do, for his sake, I hope that he is related to them. Because if it turns out that he's not related to them, then as far as I'm concerned, everything he says going forward, from the day of his inception, from the day he went on that Breakfast Club interview and dropped that little jewel. See, I noticed little things. The video that came out with him in the Breakfast Club, I think they might have edited it out, because when I first heard it, he said that, yeah, I'm a descendant of Marcus Garvey or Frederick Douglass. And then when they came out with the actual video that they put up on the website, all of a sudden that comment wasn't there. It vanished. Somehow it got clipped out. So I don't know if it was on the bloopers or whatever, but I'm hoping that someone can find it. But it's Davistar, and I'm out.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like the video you just watched, please do me a favor and like and subscribe to the Davistar Experience.